Oh shit, here we go again.
Good afternoon, you wee bastards, and welcome back to War Thunder with Koala, and happy 4th of July to you Americans for yesterday. Now give us back our tea that you dropped into Boston Harbour a couple of hundred years ago, eh? I don't forgive you for that. Anyway, I thought it was quite appropriate that we play out the F-100D Super Sabre for this video, because I realised that I never actually covered this aircraft in RRB. How did I miss that? I covered it in ground battles as a close air support jet, but despite my being one of the most avid supporters for the idea of Tier 6 jets in War Thunder, I covered the MiG-19 and the Javelin and then just completely skipped the Hun. Probably because everyone else already covered it, and I don't generally like to cover the same vehicle twice, but anyway, let the rambling begin. I was just too American yesterday, so I've got a cup of tea for this video. In today's video, I want to talk about the new battle rating changes, proposals. They've been announced, quote unquote. I don't know if these are actually official, so disclaimer, any of these could change, and hopefully some top tier battle rating adjustments are included before this change comes to the live server, because we've been waiting about 4 months for tier 7 tanks to go up above 10.0. Kaijin, I really think it's time you got your shit together. So in this video we're going to cover aircraft battle ratings, and in the next one we'll talk about the tanks, which is, I feel like, where some of the more controversial changes are. With the Tiger and the Jag Tiger. Oh dear. I'm going to record these videos back to back, at least that's the plan. Get this one out tonight and the tanks one out tomorrow morning. Also, this is going to be completely my opinions on these battle ratings, subject to my own biases, what I like about the game, the aircraft I know, and the ones I don't know so well. We're going to attempt to stick away from them because obviously I'm not going to have an experienced opinion on those aircraft. Like for example the Yak-3U, which is going down. I haven't flown it. It doesn't look like a very good aircraft for 6.3. 5.7 seems like it might be the right spot, but because I haven't flown it, I can't compare it to, say, the BF-109K4. I think that's probably its closest comparator, but we're not going to go too in-depth on that one. For the same reason, we're also only going to talk about realistic mode. I'll leave someone who actually has experience with arcade or sim to talk about those BRs. I still get comments these days saying, well, it's different in this mode, you shouldn't just cover RB, what about the other modes? Yeah, well, I don't play those modes, do I? So I have no idea what balance is like in them. If you do want to hear someone talk about it, go watch a YouTuber that actually covers arcade or sim, because I don't have experience with those modes, or go make videos on them yourself. Lastly, if I do seem a little ranty or like I'm attacking Gaijin a little, just know that it's partially done jokingly, and I don't condone witch hunting or going after Gaijin aggressively. That's not how we fix things. I just try to entertain people with my salt, I guess. So keep that in mind, take all this with a grain of salt, and let's get right into the news. So firstly, the BF-109E1 and Heinkel 100D, two infamous low-tier German seal clubbers, are going up. Each of them is getting a raise of 1 step. These aircraft are both exceptional for their BRs. A lot of experienced pilots use them to rack up their stats, their KD, because they are some of the best seal clubbers around. So that's getting partially, I guess, lessened. Reserve aircraft aren't going to fight 109s now. Hopefully they'll fight the Heinkel 100 a wee bit less often. In the same breath though, the French CR714 is going down in battle rating, which is a change I'm gonna like. The CR714 is quite comparable to the HE100D, or at least what I will say is that at this new BR, the CR714 is going to be what the Heinkel 100 is now. So if you feel like you're missing out on aircraft that were a lot of fun to take into tier 1 battles, and it's a shame that's getting taken away, go try out the CR714, I'm confident that you'll be pleasantly surprised. If you guys want to see it, I might actually cover it in a video once these new BRs come into effect. The SM-79 bombers are going down, each one is, I believe. Now, this change I have no issue with. The Sparvieros are all relatively crap. Hopefully they'll be at least average now. But what I do want to say is, why is the SM-79B in the same bracket with 2 of the others? We have 5 SM-79s, or 4 and the SM-79B, split into 2 brackets, and the SM-79B is the most noticeably different in that it only has the 2 engines rather than 3, like all the others do. So I'd suggest folder all 4 of the triple engine Sparvieros into the one bracket, and then make the SM-79B separate all of its own. That doesn't actually increase the grind at all, it just makes more sense. Let's see, the ME264. Well, let's be honest, you've probably all seen my video on this thing. Way too good for 3.7. It's being raised up to 4.0. Seriously, this is not nearly enough. It's pretty similar to the B-24D Liberator, which is at 6.0. It has a higher bomb load, faster speed, roughly equal air defense capability, only slightly worse in that it doesn't cover the lower section of the aircraft. And one genius even commented that it deserves a BR of 3.7 because it's not quite as maneuverable as the Liberator. Because that totally makes a 2.3 BR worthy difference to a 4-engine heavy bomber. The B-24 is only slightly less maneuverable than a battleship, while the ME-264 is worse, so really the 264 needs to be 5.0, not 4.0, and the Liberator needs a down tier to 5.3 alongside the Heinkel 177 Greif. Honestly, Germany taking over from America as the bomber spam nation. I never thought I'd see the day. The Bullfighter Mark 10 and Mark 21 are both going down a step. They might finally be worth flying now. Seriously, it just shows you how useless those aircraft used to be. The Mark 21 used to be a whopping 5.0. Now it's going down to 3.7. Good job on that one, Gaijin. The XP-55 Ascender finally is getting an up tier. This is the vehicle that I would give the award for singularly most overpowered premium vehicle in the entire game. Maybe that should go to the PG-02 these days, but let's be honest, who gives a shit about naval forces, right? The XP-55 is insanely capable for 3.7, way overpowered. One of few premiums that I will actually accept accusations of pay to win. Now, you win or lose by your team in War Thunder, it's difficult for an individual vehicle to even be pay to win, but there are certainly some vehicles that fall into that category. Object 120, for example, all of the 8.7 premiums probably fall into that category. Seriously, go compare the Chieftain Mark V to any of the 8.7s. Oh god, they're not even in the same ballpark. And the XP-55 is what I would call the most overpowered of any premium in War Thunder per its BR. It's finally getting up-tiered, although only to 4.0, it probably should be 4.3, while the Mustang Mark 1A and the American counterpart, the P-51 with the 20mm Hispano cannons, they probably should be 4.0. They have some insane performance, can dive to 900 km an hour and pull out safely without ripping, have a good amount of ammo, and some really strange energy retention characteristics that make them interesting to use. They also just don't bloody overheat. Let's see, we'll skip over most of the Japanese because I don't know them so well. The Dornier 335A1, the first one, that's going down to 5.0. Honestly, I don't care too much about that. I don't think Germany has any real 5.0 tank lineup, and it's honestly less able to go bomber hunting in air battles at that battle rating, so I don't really care. The M1K2s are going down, quite an interesting move. I don't know these aircraft, I haven't ever flown them, but having flown against them, I'm not sure they need it. I also don't see a problem with it, so either way, I don't see much changing noticeably. The Yak 3U, like I mentioned earlier, and the I-225 are both going down to 5.7 and 6.0 respectively. I suspect this is mainly because the Russian 20mm are absolute trash, and I feel like they'll both suit this BR better, but they still do need a lot of gun time. Now we get onto the jets, which is really the meat of this video. Firstly, the Arado C3 is going up to 7.3, which I see as good, because with its decent speed, but more so its air spawn, it is fantastic at hunting props like the Bearcats, P-51H and Griffin Spitfires, maybe an LA-9, catching them in their initial climb when they have no energy and just zooming away back to an altitude that makes them completely safe. And 7.3 seems to work. Maybe a ground spawn would have been a better way to balance that. Either way, we'll have to see. Remember that these can all be changed around in time, and we'll see more battle rating rebalances in the future anyway. Now, the Horton 229 is going up, a very good change in my opinion. I didn't realise this, but apparently some time ago, the Horton's wing ripping characteristics were buffed. It doesn't rip nearly as easy now, which makes its speed and its turn rate at speed really powerful, and 7.3 will be a very good spot for it. One thing I would like is for the MiG-9 to be down-tiered, because it is noticeably worse than the MiG-9 late, and shouldn't share the same battle rating. I think it would be balanced down at 7.0, and this is going to be a recurring theme with these changes. Gaijin isn't actually decompressing anything, and as Spitfire said, they're missing several opportunities, at least right now. As I said earlier, any number of changes or additions could be made, that's why I've held off making this video for a couple of days, but we'll get into that later. The R2Y2s are getting the shaft. Finally come the screams of joy from every B-29 pilot. The R2-Y2s are infamous for how good they are at hunting bombers. Nobody uses the R2-Y2s as bombers. They just drop the 800kg bomb and go hunting B-29s and ruin their day with that mega repair cost. The thing is that they're getting a double whammy, which seems to happen all the freaking time. Gaijin's communication within the company, I'm just going to say this as harshly as I can, but I think it's true. Gaijin's intercommunication is absolutely fucking terrible. They always do this. The R2-Y2s are having their airspawn taken away, and their battle ratings raised. Although now the version 3 is not getting up-tiered, they're all three going to be 7.3. But as of right now, their massive repair costs aren't being touched, which is completely fucking ludicrous. Now, the R2-Y2s are great at hunting bombers, but they're really not good fighter aircraft. If you're flying a P-80, or an F-80A now, or MiG-9 let's say, and you're complaining that R2-Y2s are overpowered, that's a learn-to-play issue. I'm sorry, but it is. That's on you. Because the R2-Y2s have the most god-awful energy characteristics. They are so sluggish after the initial turn, and they accelerate like fat 262s, which, let's be honest, they basically are. So if you find that R2-Y2s are killing you these days, and you think they're overpowered, before you type your angry comments on this video, just do me a favour and go try this. Make them perform one turn, and they become worthless. See, what they do is they hunt every bomber in the sky, which does suck for the bombers, perform one boom and zoom fight on some unlucky F-80A, and from that point on, they're really just big targets. They're cannon fodder. There's not much they can do against a remotely experienced pilot, which you should be at least somewhat experienced if you're flying 7.0 jets. So either they should have their airspawn removed or their battle ratings raised to 7.3. Actually, with the Arado going up, the R2-Y2s definitely belong at 7.3 too, but let them keep their airspawn. Seriously, Gaijin, one or the other. Do both and they'll become so worthless. The thing is that I don't care. The R2-Y2s, for those of you who don't know, are possibly the most fake vehicles in War Thunder, on par with the King Tiger 105 and Ho-Ri quote-unquote production. They never existed even in prototype form, not even in mock-up form. Only the R2-Y2 version 1 was even designed, and those weren't even proper blueprints, they were nothing but concept drawings. A single R2-Y1 airframe was completed. The R2-Y1 was designed as a propeller-driven reconnaissance aircraft, and one airframe, the second one that would have been built, would have served as the eventual testbed for the Mitsubishi jet engines that I believe were based on the UMO 004s that the 262 uses. But this airframe was destroyed before the end of the war, and no further work was ever done on any of the R2Ys. So if you're someone who has a problem with quote-unquote fake aircraft, get this. Now, I have no issue with prototype vehicles being added. I personally have no issue with mock-up only vehicles being added, like the Ho-Ri. I don't even have a problem with blueprint-only tanks being added. I don't like it for aircraft because there's obviously no flight data, but I see no issue with blueprint tanks being added because they can be made realistically. For example, something like the Italian P-43 bis. I actually want to see that. The Ho-Ri I have a problem with because Gaijin calls it prototype and then production, when there was never even a single completed prototype, just a wooden mock-up, let alone a production. But I have no problem with the mock-up being rendered in-game. What I do have a problem with is vehicles like the 10.5cm King Tiger, which was physically impossible to build. You couldn't fit the 105mm breech in that turret. That's why it's not even modelled in-game. If you look at it in X-ray view, it literally just has a copy-paste of the 88mm cannon breech strapped onto the 10.5cm cannon. And the R2-Y2 version 1, or the Keon Kai bomber as it would have been known, the version 1 was never even put down in proper blueprints, but the version 2 and 3, they are literally made up. They were never even concept designs. So, seriously, I just want them out of the game. Give the players who have them just 6,000 GE or something, and just get them the hell out of the game. I don't even like the version 1 being here because it was never even built as a mock-up, so there's no flight data on it. But without that, Japan would have no jet bombers, so that's not quite fair. Whatever, but to hell with the version 2 and version 3. So, I really don't care about this change. If it means the R2-Y2s are no longer ever played out, then I'm happy. but they will be made pretty useless by this change. Their capabilities are very frequently overstated by American jet pilots who've never flown the R2-Y2s and just don't know how to fight them yet. With a ground start, they're already next to useless as fighters, which is okay, maybe people will actually use them to bomb now, but at least reduce the ridiculous repair cost now that you've shafted the aircraft completely. Or remove them. Now, the Kika so far is not going up, which I see as a wee bit ridiculous. Since the buff to that thing's engines, it is so overpowered at 6.7, it's blatantly better than the 262A1A in flight performance. It only has the 2 cannons, but give it both of those 30mm cannons stock, and it's a 7.0 fighter at least. If you don't know, it only gets a single cannon stock. You have to unlock the second one for some reason. Either that or revert the buff to its engines. I mean, it was always a bit of a meme, but I think that's okay. I mean, I'd rather a historically accurate jet that is a meme than an overpowered jet that isn't even accurate to real-life flight performance anyway. The Sea Jesus is going down to 7.7, which I really like. It's pretty stupid that the Sea Meteor Mark III and Meteor Mark VIII are the same battle ratings, so put the Sea Jesus down to 7.7, that's good news, and then perhaps raise the Mark VIII and the Reaper to 8.3. They probably fit there decently enough given the changes to battle ratings of aircraft around them. That way both the Mark IVs can sit at 8.0, and that's pretty balanced. I mean, the Mark VIII is obviously superior to the Mark IVs, which are in turn obviously superior to the Sea Meteor Mark III, so yeah. The Seahawks are both going up as well, which is fine, I guess. I haven't flown them, but I have no issue with that one, especially the German one with its AIM-9s. Now for some changes I don't like. The F-80C is going down to 7.7, while the Yak-30 is going up to 8.3, and the G91 Pre-Series is going all the way up to 8.7. This is a bit weird in my opinion, because the Yak-30 is seldom flown as it is, and it's certainly not too good for 8.0. Lower the F-80C to 7.7, sure. I mean, I don't think it needs that, but it's certainly a positive change. But the Yak-30 is quite similar to the F-80C in its overall performance. Not in its actual individual flight characteristics, sure, but overall they're relatively balanced against each other. They certainly shouldn't be more than one step apart, so lower the F-80C to 7.7 and leave the Yak where it is. But once again, to me, this move doesn't make much sense. The Yak-30 is a rare aircraft. Very few people bother grinding for it through the Yak-15s and Yak-17, as well as the Yak-23, which, in my opinion, if the F-80C is going down, then the Yak-23 should be too, along with perhaps the ME-262C-1A, the one with the only one rocket. That's not as good as the C-2B. They shouldn't have the same BR. If the Yak-30 and C-2B are balanced up against the F-2H, for example, then the Yak-23 and C-1A are very balanced with the F-80C. That's the way it's always been for years. So there's something to keep in mind, Gaijin. But the Yak-30 is most definitely not overpowered at 8.0. It's not causing any problems, it doesn't need the up tier, and it certainly shouldn't be so far away from the F-80C. The G91 Pre-Series is also another aircraft that, while it is good at its tier, and yeah, it'll still be okay at 8.7, it certainly doesn't need it. 8.3 is the perfect spot for it. If anything, the G91R1 should be going down to 8.7 with the MiG-15s, which we'll talk about in a moment. But yeah, if there's one thing I implore Gaijin to do with these aircraft, it would be to leave the Yak-30 and G91 Pre where they are. Just down tier the F-80C and leave it at that. The Venom is finally going down. Holy shit, this is good news. The Venom is so incredibly outclassed these days. This move should have happened a year ago, but thank god it's now going down to 8.7, and so is the Javelin, so it might finally be ever so slightly worth flying. It'll be the lowest tier jet with an afterburning engine. The thing is, it's still only on par, if not slightly worse, than the F9 F8 Cougar. I really think that aircraft should be going up to 8.7. It has speed, maneuverability, and superior missiles over the Javelin. All it lacks is burst mass with 420mm rather than 30s, and the acceleration thanks to the afterburner. The Javelin is still missing its flight performance. If you don't know, Gaijin is using the flight manuals from the Mark IV rather than the Mark 7, 8, and 9 for the Javelin's performance, so it's ripping way too early, not turning like it should, and if it had realistic performance, it'd probably be fine for 9.0. It'd go 1140 km per hour, it'd keep pace with Sabres and MiG-17s easily. The Cougar should still go up though, as should the F3D Skyline. I forgot to mention that earlier, but with its radar and lead indicator, that jet is easily 7.3 worthy, if not 7.7 just because of that equipment. While the F3D2, which carried AIM-7 Sparrow missiles, could come in at perhaps 8.3. I don't want to turn this into a Gaijin please add video though. Seriously, I do enough of them, so let's just get onto the biggest clusterfuck of a change as the new aircraft BRs go, and that is the top tier jets. So the MiG-15s are all getting a down tier to 8.7. Now this is good in my opinion, because it used to be that it was a matter of personal preference whether you wanted to use the MiG-15 BIS or MiG-17, but these days the MiG-15 BIS has been so outclassed it could really do with a down tier. The thing is though, they're all getting down tiered to 8.7, even the early MiG-15, which is very noticeably worse. So Gaijin's actually not decompressing anything, the same old issues still exist. The same issue comes in with the Mysteres as well. The Mystere 2A and 2C are both going down to 8.7 alongside the MiGs. What's stupid about this is that the Mystere 2A, like the early model MiG-15, is noticeably worse than the 2C or MiG-15 BIS respectively, and they should have different battle ratings. Honestly, there's more of a difference between these aircraft than there is between, for example, the F-80C and Yak-30, so why will there now not be just one but two steps between the F-80C and the Yak-30, but the MiG-15 and MiG-15 BIS will still be the same battle rating as each other, and the Mystere 2A and Mystere 2C will still be the same battle rating? It makes no sense at all. This is where decompression starts to become very obviously necessary. These battle ratings just do not make sense. In tanks, people have suggested spacing out the battle ratings all across the board, but for aircraft, it's not really necessary with props. They're all basically fine as is, with very few exceptions. At top tier, however, well, the MiG-15 and Mystere 2A both need to be lower than the 15 BIS and 2C, but there's no room for them to go down any further. I mean, maybe the Mystere 2A could be 8.3. It's very comparable to a Cougar without missiles, so 8.3 would be okay for that. But the MiG-15, even though it is a lot worse than the MiG-15 BIS, is too good for 8.3. It can't go down any lower. What that means is that we need a space in between 8.3 and 8.7, or in other words, up tier every other 8.7 to 9.0, up tier all the 9.0s to 9.3, and so on and so on. So that's a missed opportunity. Could have been really good, really helped with the actual decompressing of battle ratings. But I guess that would just be a little too much like hard work, wouldn't it, Gaijin? Oh, and the A5 Sabre definitely needs to go down with them. The A5 and the MiG-15 BIS are perfect rivals. They should be the same battle rating, while the F-Sabres should be one step higher. Anyway, the G91YS is going all the way to 9.7, definitely not something I agree with. It's a good aircraft, but it's absolutely fine where it is. And the Hunter F6 is not moving anywhere, thank God. Seriously, I don't even know what you people are smoking who say it should be down-tiered. I mean, sure, it's only 9.0 performance without its missiles, but those SRAMs have the same capability as far as locking to an R60M, the missiles the late Mi-24s carried, the MiG-21 BIS carried, famously. They just have a shorter range. I'm going to input a couple of clips from an upcoming video on the F6 of these missiles in action. Seriously, the Hunter F6 is god tier. It does not need down tiering, regardless of whether it's only those missiles making it so good. What should happen is that the SRAMs need to be a tier 1 modification. I'm not sure what they are now, but they have to be made tier 1 if they're not already. And the F6 needs to be renamed F6A, the only difference at all being that the F6A had a drag chute, so the aircraft could land and rearm about 30 seconds faster and be less vulnerable doing it. You could come in faster, land at a higher speed, brake more quickly, and then be back up much easier. The faster turnaround would really help an aircraft that needs its missiles to function at its battle rating. But no, it definitely does not need the down tier. Anyone saying otherwise, you're dreaming. The Hunter F6 is more than good enough already. I don't like the idea of the G91YS moving up any further. It is a very powerful aircraft, but remember that it is still subsonic, completely subsonic. It can't even reach Mach 0.95 in a dive, while the Hunter F6 can go above Mach in a dive quite easily. Actually, the G91YS is only about as fast as the LA200, which sits all the way down at 8.0 and is not moving up. Now, I'm not saying that the LA200 is as good as the G91Y, not even close, but I think the LA200 needs to be 8.3 at least, while the G91YS is perfectly fine at 9.3. It beats the Hunter easily in flight performance, but the Hunter has those amazing air-to-air missiles, and I think for a completely subsonic jet to sit so high just isn't right. The CL-13A Sabre Mark V is going up to 9.3. Now this, once again, is where we need BR decompression, because yes, the CL-13A is better than the F-25 Sabre, for example, but not by much. It's obviously not as good as the CL-13B Sabre Mark VI. It's more comparable to an F-25 Sabre than it is a CL-13B. So I don't really see this move as necessary or that it makes much sense once again. Now, a lot of people will tell you that the CL-13A is the best out of all the old top tier jets from before Tier 6 was added, which it is the best. But if you ask yourself when a CL-13A kills you, would an F-25 have done the same thing to me? The answer is almost always yes, disregarding player skill of course. The CL-13A is only slightly better than the American F-Sabres. It's better, noticeably so if you look at stats or do a side-by-side comparison, but not all that noticeable actually in-game. Like I said, whatever a CL Mark V does to you, an F-25 could almost always do the same thing and beat you in the same way, and every time you kill an American Sabre, you could usually have done the same thing once again to a CL-13 Mark V. The CL-13A is probably comparable to the F-40 Sabres with the missiles at 9.3, but once again, decompress the BRs, and we allow for the CL-13A and F-40 to come above the F-25, F-30, F-35 and F-2, but still below the CL-13B, where they belong. The CL-13B Sabre Mark VI is better than these aircraft. The F-86K in the French tree also belongs at this in-between battle rating. It's slightly too good for a 9.0, but not quite on par with the CL-13B. And I'm not saying that the CL-13B needs to be up-tiered, it's not as good as the F6 or F100, we just need the in-between battle rating for these aircraft to slot into, the F40, CL-13A, and F-86K. Possibly even the Super Mystere B2. What we also need is for the F2, MiG-17, Hunter F1 and CL-13A to go back down into Tier 5. Seriously, they have no place at Tier 6, and I've said this several times in the past. Gaijin themselves stated that the requirement for a jet to be Tier 6 are supersonic speed in level flight, afterburning engines, air-to-air missiles, or a battle rating above 9.0. The F2, MiG-17, Hunter F1 and CL Mark V fulfill none of these criteria, and yet they're in Tier 6 for no good reason, while the F40 Sabres, which fulfill 2 of those criteria, no, they get to stay in Tier 5. Because Gaijin has to be able to claim that they haven't introduced top tier premiums. Oh no, that 9.3 missile equipped jet, that's only a Tier 5, even though according to our own rules it has to be Tier 6 and it's better than the F2 Hunter or MiG-17. Nope, no top tier premiums here. The Israeli Voltor and the G91R4 should also probably be Tier 6, but they're only 9.0, so it doesn't really matter to me. But at least put those old top tier jets back into Tier 5 where they belong. Seriously, follow your own rules, lads. You ain't fooling anyone about those top tier premiums, and well, when you reduce the cost of Tier 5 aircraft, you very conveniently left the F2 and MiG-17 out of that one, didn't you? That's so obvious what they're trying to do, and it's not working. Lastly, the F100 is not moving up, unfortunately. That's something I hoped for. Originally, the MiG-19 PT and F100D Super Sabre were pretty well on par. I'd even say the MiG was ever so slightly better, but in my opinion, not enough to warrant the BR difference. But with the introduction of AIM-9Es, the F100D now has superior missiles, and twice as many of them, and the faster top speed, while the MiG-19 PT has better mobility and energy retention, and the MiG-19S is even better in those regards, but has no missiles, and in my opinion they all belong at 10.0. And the T2, for fuck's sake Gaijin, raise the 10.0 roof, will you? The T2 never should have been 10.0 in the first place. Now, I want my I told you so moment here. I was the one who originally said that with top tier being capped at 10.0, that all the tier 7 tanks and the T2 should have been introduced at BR 10.3 instead. Only one step up, not a big stress on the matchmaker, and then the BRs could be ironed out in time. And everybody commented, even some fellow content creators that I won't name, said to me that Gaijin always does this, they initially retain the current BR ceiling and then raise the new vehicles in time once the matchmaker has calmed down. So stop complaining, you're being toxic, Koala. Wait a couple of weeks and Gaijin will up tier the things and give them proper BRs, they always do. Well, it's been 4 months, and 10.0 is still our ceiling, so I told you so. Next time I point out this, when Gaijin raises the tier 7 tanks and the T2 to 10.3 or something, and then adds the Leopard to A6, M1A2, and F105 Thunder Chief and such, also at 10.3, I'm going to remind you guys of this. Yeah, he was right, huh? I'm only kidding, I'm not going to be that arrogant, but for God's sake, Gaijin, please do some actual decompressing of top tier battle ratings, and hopefully this video should be all you need to give us a couple of those in-between battle ratings, and then raise the T2 up one step more. It is blatantly the best jet in the game, definitely superior to the MiG-19s and the F-100, which are its next closest rivals. It actually finds it more difficult to fight Sabres than it does Super Sabres, because those jets are so different across the playing board that they don't cooperate well. They don't meet each other on the same playing field. It's very difficult to translate a T2 into the playstyle of a Sabre, but they are definitely the best jets of the game. And they're not moving up. How stupid. This was your chance, Gaijin. And you missed it. Anyway, lads, that is going to be it for this video. I hope you have enjoyed, and that you leave a like if you did, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that bell icon, join the 360 squad. Like I said, several additions could come to this list before it hits live servers. I hope they do, and if I turn out to be wrong, then that's a good thing. But please leave your opinions on all of this in the comment section below. This has been mine, but please know that if you have a different opinion, that's a good thing. I don't hate you for it. Even if I argue against your opinion, it doesn't mean that I'm arguing against you personally. We all have our opinions, and we all like to think that we're right. So if you want to have a conversation about battle ratings in the comment section and what deserves to go where, try to keep it civil and we can have a proper discussion, alright? I also hope you guys get what I meant by, like, in-between battle ratings to create a slot for an aircraft that can't really be up-tiered, but is ever so slightly overpowered. Like, for example, the G91R4 that has missiles, or the G91R1 doesn't, but they sit at the same BR. I don't think that's right. Like I said, the equivalent video for ground forces should be out in a few hours. I want to have it out today. But until then, lads, always remember, keep your bagpipes to hand, keep your kilt on, and I shall see you next video. I say a wee thank you to these lads for supporting me on Patreon. Captain Thubar, DA261, Gisli Gadarsson, and Dark Recon. You lads are bra. If you wish to join them, come check out the link in the description below.